tonight, and tonight's message is called Listen to the Nudge. Listen to the nudge. And so some of you might be saying, well, what's the nudge, Andy? Well, let me tell you what the nudge is. It's that moment that every once in a while where you just sort of get that urge, that desire to do something. If you've ever experienced the nudge, maybe it was just like that desire to write the book, the desire to start the business, the desire to step outside of your comfort zone, the desire to go back to school and get the other degree. That's the nudge. That's the little nudge that we get. And listen, here's what I want you to realize, that sometimes if you don't obey the nudge, if you don't listen to the nudge, then guess what happens oftentimes? You end up postponing, delaying your dreams and delaying your goals. So of course, like always, I want to thank all of you for joining me tonight. I can assure you I have a message for you tonight. We had some technical difficulties to try to derail that, but we're not going to let that hold us back. So I want to give a shout out to some of you that are joining in right now. Give a shout out to Stevie Woods. I see you, my man. Give a shout out to Myra. I see you. I see you. Thank you so much for tuning in. Hey, Lynn, how you doing? Thank you so much for tuning in. I want to thank you all for tuning in. And I'm going to go ahead and make sure that I go ahead and type this as I'm speaking. My wife says I'm not the best at multitasking, but I'm going to do my best this evening as I had to go ahead and just sort of improvise. But today's message is listen to the nudge. And so one more time, if you've ever received a nudge, and what's the nudge? You say the nudge is just sort of like that urge or that desire to do something, to move forward on something that may perhaps you haven't before. Some of you have a book in you and you've been experiencing a little nudge and it's been saying to you, come on, write the book, write the book. And you hear the nudge, but you keep coming up with excuses and reasons as to why you haven't got started yet. Some of you, the nudge is that you've had this desire to start a business or to make a significant transition in your life. And so maybe you've been working a regular 9-to-5, you've been working a corporate career, and you've had this desire, this idea, right, to go ahead and start this business. And every single time you receive the little nudge, somehow you manage to ignore it. And month after month and year after year, you're still finding yourself working the same job and doing the exact same thing. Some of you, the nudge is, you know in your heart that you've got this extraordinary gift. You've got this gift, you've got this skill, and you have this talent. And you know that you believe in your heart that you can, in fact, make a living as a result of this talent. You know that you can literally put yourself in position to do this thing that you know that you've been called to do, but you keep postponing it, you keep delaying it, and you keep finding a way to ignore the nudge. And if you're that person, what I am hoping is that I'm going to get you to stop ignoring the nudge. I'm going to get you to start to listen to that inner intuition, to that inner calling that tells you to move forward on something bigger, on something greater. And I believe that so many of us, unfortunately, that we don't fulfill our greatest potential. And we don't do that thing that we were called to do because we have literally ignored the nudge. And so I want to disrupt that. I want you to stop ignoring the nudge. I want you to listen to the nudge. I want you to listen to the nudge and write the book and start the business and go back and get the other degree that you've been wanting to do, or go ahead and step completely outside the box and start that nonprofit that you want to do. But I want you to listen to the nudge and do that thing that you know that you've been meaning to do and that you've been wanting to do. And so I want to thank all of you who are joining me tonight. Let me give a shout out real quick. John Garcia, I see you. Cindy Lopez, I see you. John Moses, I see you. Lynn, I see you. Stevie Woods, I see you. Myra, I see you. And of course, before we go ahead and do a deep dive into the content tonight, just do me a favor, go ahead and hit the share button. Hit the share button, because I know that there is somebody that you're connected to right now that's been experiencing a nudge and they've been ignoring it for too long. And I believe that when you ignore the nudge, what you're doing is you're postponing your destiny. You're delaying that thing that you've been called to do. And instead of answering the call on your life, instead of doing that thing that you were designed to do, what you're doing is you are delaying it. And so what I want to do is increase your level of sensitivity to answering the nudge that has been placed upon your life, the nudge and the urgency to simply do something that you have been called to do, because here's what I believe, that your sole responsibility is to simply listen to the nudge, and then afterwards is to just allow God to do the rest. I want to say that one more time. Your sole responsibility is to simply listen to the nudge, and then after that, let God do the rest. And so in other words, don't try to have it all figured out. Just listen to the nudge, answer the nudge, and amazing things will begin to happen. So do me a quick favor right now in the comment section, if you've ever heard the nudge before in your life, if you've ever sort of experienced a nudge and somehow, some way, you know in your heart that you've ignored the nudge many a times, do me a favor. In the comment section, put hashtag listen, hashtag listen. And the reason why I want you to do that is because I want you to begin to start programming yourself to simply listen to the nudge, that urge that just tells you, you know what, just go ahead and put in the application. That urge that tells you, you know what, just go ahead and start writing. That urge that tells you, you know what, just go ahead and start the business plan. The urge that tells you, you know what, go ahead and sign up for the coaching. The urge, listen, that little nudge that you have that just simply says, go ahead and just at least start. When we can listen to that, yes, Stevie Woods, yes, John Garcia. When we learn to listen to the nudge, yes, Monique, when we learn to listen to the nudge, great things begin to happen in our lives. Doors begin to open. And not only that, but we literally begin to start stepping out there to our next level. And so I want to share something with you because it's really important. Listen, just this week, just earlier on this week, a group of my friends and I, we got together and we had the honor, the privilege around this season of time that we literally were able to distribute and give out over 2,000 Christmas gifts to children in underprivileged areas, to children who, in many instances, if they didn't receive a gift from us, that their Christmas was probably not going to be as happy and as pleasant as other children that have the means. But I want you to understand, I was sort of taken back because I was thinking about how big this thing has gotten. And this is something that we have been doing now for 10 years. And what I want you to understand is this all happened because at one point I received a nudge and I was willing to listen to the nudge. And so I want to share this with you because I believe that all of us experience a nudge in life. And what happens is sometimes we ignore it. And sometimes we try to qualify it. And so what do I mean by qualified? In other words, we say, well, I would if I had the right amount of money in my bank account. I would if I had the right amount of experience. I would, but I'm just going to wait a little longer. And so what happens is we have a tendency to try to find a way to come up with excuses and reasons as to why we don't move forward. So here's what I want you to get this. I want you to get this, right? So earlier this week, we literally distributed over 2,000 gifts to elementary school students at some underprivileged areas to just really be able to bring a blessing and really be able to love on some kids during this Christmas season. But I want you to go ahead and rewind and go back with me. I want you to go back with me 10 years to how this started. I had a friend of mine that was an elementary school teacher that said, hey, Andy, listen, could you do me a favor? Listen, my kids, they deal with a lot of challenges and I feel like they need a positive role model. Can you come to the school and just speak to the kids in my classroom? And let me tell you, I got to give it up for my friend because she was really persistent because I told her I would come, but I never really gave her a firm date. And so she was really, really adamant week after week, month after month. She kept saying, Andy, when are you going to come in and talk to the kids? I know you're busy, but when are you going to come in and talk to the kids? This is over 10 years ago. So I finally go in and I talk to the kids. Amazing group of first grade students. I spend the day with them and I just fell in love with these kids. They were awesome, amazing. And so it just so happened that I was there during their recess. And so we stepped outside and we went and I was throwing the football around with some of the kids and playing tag and running around. And while we were out there, I looked out in the playground and I saw some drug paraphernalia. And so if you're trying to figure out what I mean by that, in other words, I'm at an elementary school. And in the elementary school playground, I literally see little bags that drug dealers use to sell marijuana in these little bags. And so I'm taken back because I'm thinking about like, wow, what are the challenges that these kids have to deal with if even in their playground, there's drug paraphernalia there. So I'm inside the classroom and I'm about to leave the kids for the day and I'm hugging these kids and I'm loving on these kids. And then I just feel a little nudge. And the nudge says, Andy, you know what? Why don't you tell these kids and bring back some Christmas toys for these kids? That was just it. That was the nudge. And I'm telling you, when I received the nudge, I could have came up with an excuse like, man, I got to buy toys for all the kids in the class, or, well, maybe I shouldn't do it now. Maybe I should wait till I can do the entire school. Or I could have been, well, I don't have to come back this time. I'm sure I'll be back to talk to the kids again. In other words, when I received the nudge, I could have ignored the nudge. But I was so grateful that when I felt the nudge and the urge to just simply come back and bring the kids some toys, that I obeyed and I listened to the nudge. And so about a month later, I went to the store and I got her roster for her classroom, and I got all the kids in her class some toys. And so I did that the first year. And by the second year, I said, you know what? I did her class, but what if I did the entire kindergarten? What if I did the entire first grade and the entire second grade? And eventually, I'm going to hope to eventually be able to do the entire school. And so the following year, I did the entire kindergarten, the entire first grade, and so forth. And now I want you to listen to this. In the third year, I end up having a conversation with one of my buddies. His name is Angelo and Gene. And so these guys are some of my buddies from when I was investing in real estate. And I was talking to them about this thing that I was doing at the elementary school, how I'm bringing the toys to the kids. And my buddy Angelo listens to me, and Angelo says, man, you know what, Andy, you should do the entire school. And so I'm listening to Angelo. I'm like, listen, man, that's cool that you tell me to do the whole school, but hey, man, put your money where your mouth is. I mean, there's a couple of hundred students at that school. If we're talking about spending $10 a toy, we're talking about spending thousands of dollars to do the whole school. And so my buddy's like, listen, man, I'm in. And so we start making phone calls. We start calling people up to go ahead and join us. And so that year we end up doing the entire school. Well, what ends up happening is we get a phone call from another elementary school, and we tell them, okay, we'll go ahead and do their school. But this was before we realized that their school roster was over, listen carefully, over 800 kids. And so we go from doing about 500 kids to now another 800 kids. And so we're literally doing over 1,300 kids that we're bringing toys for. And then over the years, it has grown. And so I want you to get this. Over this past year, we did over 2,000 children that we gave away toys to. But not only that, this is the biggest that it's ever been, but it's also the easiest that it's ever been. This thing has taken off without us. I mean, we have gotten contributions and donations from all kinds of people. We did a toy wrapping party, and literally in a matter of like 2 hours, over 2,000 toys were wrapped, because there are so many people who turned out because of the collaboration of all the people who've come along in churches and volunteers and all these things. And I share that with you to make you understand this, that sometimes you're going to experience a nudge. You're going to experience an urge. Something's going to be placed on your heart to do something. And it's easy when that happens for you to ignore the nudge, for you to come up with an excuse, for you to come up with a reason as to why you shouldn't move forward. And what I'm telling you is this: learn to listen to the nudge. You hear me? Listen to the nudge. Don't allow yourself to talk yourself out of it. Don't convince yourself that now is not the right timing. Don't convince yourself that you need to have more resources. I need you to listen to the nudge. That's why I have you put the hashtag listen. That's why I want you to put the hashtag listen, because you need to be able to condition yourself to listen to the nudge, because oftentimes, listen carefully, oftentimes the nudge is going to lead to some really big, amazing things happening in your life. And so I need you to get this. Listen carefully. I need you to get this, because one of the first things that I want you to realize, and I think it's one of the things that we do far too often, is that, listen, don't ignore the nudge. I'm going to type that and put that in there right now for you. Don't ignore the nudge. And I write that down and I put that up on the screen because I want you to get this. I believe that this is something that we do all too often. And I believe if you continue to ignore the nudge enough, then what happens is every time you ignore the nudge, the urge to do something significant with your life, to step outside of your comfort zone, to start something new, to write the book, to start the business, to make the career change, to pursue your gifts, your skills and your passions, to go ahead and get the coaching, the mentorship, to do whatever that thing is that you feel the urge to do. Every single time that you ignore the nudge, guess what you're doing? You are ignoring and passing on an opportunity for greatness, an opportunity for your next level, an opportunity for you to make some great things happen. And so I want you to get this. I want you to get this. You have to learn to condition yourself to listen to the nudge, because ultimately that is where your next level begins to show up. Do me a favor right now. Go ahead and hit the share button, because I got some more things to share with you. Make sure you hit the share button, but I need you to learn to listen to the nudge. I think about it and I look back at my life right now. And so when I look back and I think about it, it has literally been over 14 years since I made the decision to go ahead and leave corporate America and literally pursue my gifts and my skills and my passion. And so what I want you to understand is this. Here I am. I was working as a CPA. I got my undergraduate degree in accounting. I got my master's degree in corporate accounting. I studied like crazy. I became a licensed CPA. I'm working with one of the largest professional service firms in the world, a company by the name of PricewaterhouseCoopers. Fantastic company, fantastic growth opportunities. The sky is the limit. And so I'm working with this company, but yet and still, every single day, something inside of me is saying, Andy, there's got to be more than this. Something inside me is saying, man, there is a bigger calling and a bigger purpose on your life. And maybe perhaps you can relate to that. Maybe in spite of what appears to be success on the outside, people looking on at your life, that you still feel the urge and you still feel the nudge to do something different. You feel the urge to go in a different direction, to do something that's outside of your comfort zone, to do something that maybe perhaps is going to require you to step up your game, that's going to scare you in many ways, and something that you're not even quite sure exactly what all the steps are going to be. And I'm telling you, when I was working in corporate America, and I had all the reasons to stay with this amazing company. I had invested all my time getting my undergraduate degree in accounting, my master's degree in accounting. Listen, it was easy for me to ignore the nudge. And I'm telling you right now, I ignored it for about a year and a half. For a year and a half, I made excuses and reasons for me to not pursue my goals and my dreams. I made excuses and reasons for me to go ahead and just sort of sit still and not step out there and go in a different direction and try to do something else. I'm telling you, I came up with excuses. And some of the excuses were, Andy, man, you spent all this time getting your undergraduate degree in accounting. I mean, how are you going to go ahead and stop doing accounting? You studied like crazy for the CPA exam. You became a licensed CPA. Now you're not going to practice anymore. Andy, what if you fail? What if things don't work out? Andy, well, you don't have it all figured out. At least have your game plan. Andy, why don't you make sure you have a certain amount of money in your bank account? And so I was coming up with all these excuses and all these reasons as to why I couldn't get started, as to why I shouldn't get started. But I'm going to tell you this. Once I finally listened to the nudge, once I finally obeyed the urge, and I made the decision, in spite of the fact that I didn't have it all figured out, in spite of the fact that I was fearful, in spite of the fact that some people were going to look at me like I was straight crazy, I made the decision to leave my corporate career and pursue my gifting, pursue my calling, and figure out what that next level of my life is. And only because I was willing to make that decision, it's the only reason why today I could be saying that I'm so grateful and thankful to have amazing companies like Bacardi, Accenture, Office Depot, NASA, Pratt & Whitney. It's the only reason why today I can say that I am been blessed and fortunate to be in Black Enterprise and Huffington Post, to be on national television. And I share all that with you, not to impress you, but just to get you to understand I had to listen to the nudge. And so I want you to understand that you have no idea as to what your next level is going to look like. You have no idea as to the doors that are going to open up for you. You have no idea as to where your gifting, your calling is going to lead you if you just are simply willing to listen to the nudge, if you're willing to act. And so that's why I asked you a little earlier, and I'm going to ask you to go ahead and do this for me again. In the comment section, put #listen, because I need you to condition your mind to listen to the nudge. that when the desire and the urge pops up for you to move forward and do something, I need you to listen and I need you to act. I need you to act upon it and not second guess it and not try to qualify it. Here's the second thing I need you to get. Remember, I told you earlier, but what I want you to get now is here's what I want you to get. Write this down. Don't qualify the nudge. Don't qualify the nudge. I want you to write this down. Don't qualify the nudge. And so you say, well, Andy, what do you mean by that? Don't qualify the nudge. Here's what I want you to get. This is what I mean by qualifying the nudge. You have a desire to do something, and then you start coming up with trying to qualify it. Well, how am I going to do that when I don't have this amount of money in my bank account? How am I going to do that when I have never done that before in my life? How am I going to do that when I have failed at this in the past? How am I going to do that when I don't have it all figured out? I don't know what step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4. I don't have all the pieces to the puzzle. And so here's what I want you to get is that oftentimes you are going to try to qualify the nudge. Listen, just the mere fact that you got the nudge means that you are qualified. I'm going to say that again. Listen, do not try to qualify the nudge. Just the mere fact that you got the nudge, it means that you're qualified. Now, you may not feel qualified. Your bank account may not make you feel like you're qualified. Your skill set may not make you feel like you're qualified. But listen, if you have received the nudge, then understand that with that, if you're willing to act on it, it may take some time. You may experience some bumps and bruises. You may have to learn some things. There may be a learning curve, but trust me and believe me on this, that ultimately it's going to lead you to your destiny. It's going to lead you to that place that you are destined to be, because you wouldn't even feel the nudge if you weren't qualified to answer the call. I'm going to say that again. You wouldn't even experience the nudge if you weren't qualified to answer the call. And so what I need you to understand is don't try to qualify the nudge, because here's what happens. A lot of times we get the urge, the desire to do something, and then we try to pre-qualify ourselves. And during the pre-qualification process, guess what we end up doing? We disqualify ourselves and we convince ourselves that we shouldn't write the book. We convince ourselves that we can't start the business. We convince ourselves that we shouldn't ask that person to be our spouse or to marry us. We convince ourselves that maybe perhaps we can't reach that financial goal or that relationship goal or that spiritual goal, whatever that thing is. And so what I want you to understand is stop trying to pre-qualify yourself and do not, listen carefully, do not qualify the nudge. Just the mere fact that you received the nudge means that you are qualified to fulfill it. Listen carefully. Just the mere fact that you received the nudge means that you are qualified to fulfill it. I hope that you're getting some of this stuff that I'm sharing with you right now. Do me a favor. If you're getting some value from what I'm sharing, go ahead and hit the share button, hit the share button, hit the share button, hit the share button. I got one more thing to share, and I believe that somebody that you're connected to is going to benefit from it. Now, here's the other thing that I want you to get, because this is the part that we have to understand, right? I told you, you got to learn not to ignore the nudge. And then the other thing is you got to try not to pre-qualify or to qualify with the nudges. But here's the other thing we got to do. We got to take action and release the outcome. All right, I'm going to say that one more time. You got to take action and release the outcome. So what do I mean by that? What I mean by that is that when you have the nudge, like when I received the nudge to leave corporate America, right? My soul, listen, the one thing that I needed to do was just simply respond to the nudge, take action, which means to have enough fortitude to be willing to step outside of my comfort zone, to leave my corporate job and start this new journey of pursuing my passion, pursuing my gift, pursuing my calling, whatever that was, right? Now, even though I didn't have that all figured out, now, here's what I want you to understand, that a lot of times what keeps us from taking action is because of the fact that we want a predetermined outcome. So we want a guaranteed outcome. Well, I would write the book if I knew for sure that the book is going to be a success and become a bestseller. I would start the business if I knew 100% that I was going to be successful in the business. I would start the diet if I knew 100% that I was going to be successful in my diet. I would go ahead and start dating again if I knew 100% that my next relationship was going to work out perfectly. But here's what I want you to understand. There are no guarantees in life. And so when you receive the nudge, when you receive the urge, when you have this desire to take action, your responsibility is to take action. Listen carefully. Your responsibility is to take action and then release the outcome. Listen carefully. Your responsibility is to take action and then to release the outcome. And so, in other words, you cannot be attached to the outcome because oftentimes you don't know what the outcome is going to be. Listen carefully. You have absolutely no way of predicting what the outcome is going to be. However, in spite of that, you need to take action. And by doing so, that's when everything begins to shift. By doing so, that is when your next level begins to show up. And so here's what I want you to get. I need you to get this fully. Listen carefully. Listen carefully. Within the next week, and within the next 30 days, and within the next year, you are going to receive the nudge. You're going to feel the urge. You're going to feel a desire to do something more with your life, to step outside of your comfort zone, to do something that you've had on the back burner, to fulfill a desire that you've always had, to answer a calling that's been placed on your life. You are going to feel the nudge. You're going to feel an urge, a desire to do it. And when you feel that desire, when you feel that nudge, what I want you to do is be very careful. Do not ignore the nudge. Do not ignore the nudge, but rather I want you to listen to it. Listen to the urge. Listen to the nudge that you receive that tells you, you know what? Go ahead and start the nonprofit. Go ahead and write the business. Go ahead and make this career change. Go ahead and go for the promotion. Go ahead and do this thing that you know that you've been wanting to do. Listen, do not ignore the nudge. I need you to listen to the nudge. Now, once you listen to the nudge, here's the other thing. Be very careful. Don't try to qualify the nudge. What do you mean by that, Andy? Here's what I mean. Do not try to say to yourself, well, let's see here. I have this urge to start the business, but I don't know if I have enough resources to do it. I have a desire to go ahead and write the book, but I don't know if it's going to be a bestseller. You know what? I have this desire to make a career change, but what if things don't work out? So what I want you to do is be very careful about trying to qualify the nudge. It is not your responsibility to qualify the nudge. Just the mere fact that you receive the nudge means that you are qualified to fulfill. I'm going to say it again. Just the mere fact that you receive the nudge means that you are qualified to fulfill it. And then the last thing is, I want you to get this. You need to not only listen to it and not try to pre-qualify it, but you need to take action and release the outcome. Don't attach yourself to the outcome. Listen, way too many people fall by the wayside because it is time for them to act on something and they're so attached to the outcome and they want a fixed, predetermined, guaranteed outcome. And there's no such thing in life. You need to take action with whatever information that you have right now, with just simply moving forward on your instincts and on your intuition and your willingness to fulfill and answer the nudge. And when you do that, amazing things begin to happen. When you do that, the best-selling book that's in you comes to life. When you do that, that business that you have comes to life. When you do that, the gifts, the skills, and your talents that you've been utilizing as a hobby, it now becomes your full vocation. It becomes your career. It becomes that thing that you do. That when you finally learn to listen to the nudge, that is when you finally discover what you've been called to do. That's when things go to an entirely different level. And so I want you now to just simply leave with just one simple thing, with just a willingness to just listen to the nudge, to not pre-qualify it, and then be willing to just take action. I believe that if you do that over the next week, over the next month, and over the next year, extraordinary things are going to happen in your life. That that opportunities that you didn't even believe are going to literally unfold themselves. I believe that the highest and best version of you is going to begin to reveal itself, and you're about to go on an extraordinary adventure of discovering all the amazing things that you're capable of. And so, once again, I want to thank you for tuning in and join me for the Thursday night Show Up for Your Life motivational live stream. I do apologize for the technical difficulties, but we were not going to allow anything to stop us from receiving and from all of you receiving this message tonight. So go ahead and do me a quick favor as you sign off. If you haven't already done so, go ahead and hit the share button, that way we can make sure some other people who weren't able to catch this message catch it. And then the other thing is, as you sign off this evening, do me a favor, put #listen, because I want you to learn how to simply listen to the nudge, listen to the nudge. And of course, like always, I want to thank you so much for tuning in on the Thursday night Show Up for Your Life motivational live stream. And of course, you can join us same time, same place every week, Thursday, 8 o'clock p.m. Eastern time. And so I thank you all so much.